Hello, this is Steve, and we're with Wydler Brothers of Compass in the DC metro area, and you're listening to the Real Takk Podcast.
This is Naomi Klein, representing the Compass office in Beverly Hills, and you're listening to the Real Takk Podcast.
What up, everybody? This is Chef Jack Harris at the Talk Team Podcast.
This is Jade with the Jessica Northrup team from Denver, Colorado, and you are listening to the Real Takk Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Real Takk. Thank you for joining always. It's been a crazy week for me. I celebrated my 36th birthday last week in New York City, and just recovering from that while scrambling to come back down to DC. And here I am. I'm actually today. I'm welcomed in the McLean office, which is about 20 minutes south of Washington DC. Honored to have with us the guests for this show, the Wydler Brothers. The Wydler Brothers are Steve and Hans Wydler, along with they have 18 agents and 6 support staff. They've been selling residential real estate for 20 years in the DMV area. They built the highest producing team in the DMV, became the top 25 teams in the United States, according to the Wall Street Journal, and were voted the best realtor by readers of Bethesda Magazine in 2015-2019. Their track record is long, so I want to keep it short. But Hans has an MBA from Harvard Business School. He also has a BA from Yale. He lives in Bethesda with his wife and their 2 children. He started his career as a director of online classified for the Washington Post in 1994. So that's a pretty prestigious job back in 94, given that there was dial-up modems and there was probably virtually no internet at that time. So
I was doing new media before Al Gore invented the internet. what I said.
Yeah. So I bet in 1994 no one knew what director of online classifieds even meant.
Right.
So, and then after a few years working in that working in a few other tech-related firms, he joined Long & Foster in 2011. And for those listeners that don't know,
2001.
2001,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, and for those listeners that don't know Long & Foster, they're an affiliate of Christie's based in Chantilly, but were founded in Fairfax County, which is where I grew up. Steve is a reformed transactional lawyer turned real estate broker. He lives in McLean with his 2 daughters and an Aussie Doodle, which is awesome. I have an Aussie Poodle mix.
Oh, cool.
As well. Steve graduated from Dartmouth, was top of his class at the New York City's International Bartenders School, and received a JD from Vanderbilt Law. Upon graduation, he worked as an associate at Pillsbury Winthrop, then became assistant general counsel for AOL in 1998. And you were there for about 10 years.
Now, I was at AOL for 5 years.
5
I was a
years.
lawyer total for 7 years.
7 years.
But who's
Okay.
counting?
It felt like 10.
Felt like that.
Felt like 20.
He joined real estate in 2012 after founding FiveStreet, a real estate lead conversion tool that helps optimize real estate brokers' consumer interactions online.
So Steve joined me actually 2002.
Is it
in real estate.
2002?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we started FiveStreet probably 8 or 9 years ago.
Gotcha. When not working, Steve can be found embarrassing his teenage daughters, playing squash and golf at a slow and poor level, respectively. A little factoid about Steve: he has a solid Uber rating of 4.83. Is that updated?
It's probably up to 486 now. I'm really working on that.
You guys use Ubers in Virginia
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You may follow the Wydler Brothers on Instagram at Wydler Brothers, WYDLER Brothers, where you may find their interesting videos, witty commentary, and real estate photography of properties that they sell in the Nova and Maryland and the DC area. So, brothers, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We really appreciate your time. I gotta say, your videos online are pretty hilarious. They have the comedy of The Office. It's very dry. I feel like one of you guys is Steve Carell, and
Do you think they're derivative?
I just feel like, are you guys directing these videos yourselves?
We like to have fun with our marketing, so we have a lot of ideas. Once in a while, well, they're good. And so we just always try to keep it innovative. You know, we really enjoy marketing, and
Sure.
I think in this business, there's a lot of people take themselves way too seriously, and I think that our ability to have fun with ourselves and with each other really resonates with our clientele.
Yeah, you're right. Too many brokers are way too uptight with their marketing, or they're way too prestigious with their marketing. You guys,
And we have
that
a
comedic.
great team, which helps weed out the really bad stuff.
I loved your B-roll about it. Was it that hard trying to catch that?
The bottle?
The bottle
Yes.
without looking?
For my brother, yes, it was very hard.
I mean,
Yes.
it had to be perfect timing, perfect throw. So we had a few mishaps, and we were in a
We lost 2 interns.
yeah
We had an intern throwing up the bottle and kept falling on his face. It was bad.
Oh no! Oh,
He was
somebody was
okay.
down there catching it.
We were
I thought
terrified.
there was
We
like
were-
a pillow or something.
we were
down
in
there.
someone else's house, so we didn't want to break a
No.
bottle in their house. So
No.
it was a little bit
So
stressful.
I thought maybe there was like a bunch of pillows.
No,
or
we had a
something.
bunch of interns.
Interns
So,
just trying to break it on,
so-
trying to break it on their face. So let's start from the beginning. You know, both of you guys came into real estate into different areas, different time frames. So, you know, why did you guys first decide to get into real estate, and then why did you guys, as brothers, sometimes it is hard growing up together. It's probably harder doing business together. How did you guys decide to join forces at such early stages?
Well, it's funny. You said your 36th birthday. Happy birthday!
Thank you.
And I always say I got into real estate at about your age. I was 35, give or take. And I always tell you that my first midlife crisis. I had worked at the Washington Post for several years in a new media group, and we launched WashingtonPost.com early. So it was 93, 4, 5,
How
6.
fascinating.
So it was just great. It was all, the whole
Post.com.
Yeah.
That URL was obviously available then.
Yeah, exactly. And early stuff, and a lot of exciting things were happening in the '90s. And I left the Post, did 3 internet startups in the '90s. The last one of which was my own. And it's funny. It was an online picture framing business.
Sure.
And we had partners with the largest wholesaler of digital photography and retail photography. Rich Cameras. They had like over 1,000 stores. So we had all these great things lined up. And in 1999, if you were probably 12, but the internet stock market just collapsed. It was the first .com bust.
bubble, yeah.
And so we couldn't raise our A round. Fast forward 20 years. Another woman, also based in Washington, started a company called FrameBridge. Basically, our business,
you serious?
our business
I was about
model
to say-
from 20 years ago.
I was about to say that sounds exactly like FrameBridge.
Yeah, and so we have a history of being too early and too small 20 years ahead of time. So it was that last experience. Like, you know what? I love being an entrepreneur. I love Washington, D.C. The kinds of jobs to go back into corporate America were going to take me to other parts of the country. And I wanted to stay in Washington. This is where I wanted to make my home. And we had just had our first son was born. And I sort of backed into real estate through that, like a time of my first midlife crisis. And that's how I got into it.
Interesting.
So tag teaming on that, I was a lawyer with AOL, and I actually enjoyed being at AOL during a very exciting time in the internet life cycle. And while I was working at AOL, 9/11 happened, and sort of had that very reflective moment of what I want to do with my life. And so I realized that I wanted to do something more entrepreneurial and something where I added more value to people's lives. My brother Hans had gotten his real estate license. I'll be honest, I was really surprised when he did it, because I felt like he was flushing his pedigree down the toilet. And because back in 2000, people with his pedigree were not getting into this business.
No.
And so after making fun of him mercilessly for a solid year, I quit my job at AOL and I got my real estate license. And it took us. We worked collaboratively for about a little less than a year.
Did that just happen organically, or did you say, let's just join as a team officially?
No, we worked collaboratively. I wanted to get my running legs going before we worked out. We did want to work out because we're brothers, and I'm a lawyer. We wanted to work out the arrangement of how we
Business
actually.
background and the legal background,
Yeah.
combined forces obviously makes a lot of sense there.
And we also
A lot
live.
of
It's
money.
funny. It was nice because Steve lives in McLean and I
Yeah.
live in Bethesda,
Uh-huh.
and so we weren't on top of each other. We've always had separate offices.
Sure.
It's kind of like the New York area where you have, the tri-state area. We have
Brooklyn, New Jersey, and
right.
Manhattan. Yeah.
Yeah, we have the DMV. We have the district, suburban Maryland, and Northern Virginia.
Yeah.
So it worked out real well.
Okay, that's nice. When you guys officially fully formed, was the goal to build out your own brokerage, separate yourselves from Long and Foster, and have your own brand? Was that initially the goal, or did you just not?
I would say it's slightly differently. When we both started, I think our goal was, I would say, at least I'll say for myself, I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. I didn't want to be, just another realtor. Like I wanted every client experience to be transformational for my client, where they would have this impression that I was so much better than my competition that they would be crazy to use anyone else, and that all their friends had to use us. So Hans and I, from day one, have been really, thoughtful and what we do, how we do it, the level of service we provide, strategic thinking, business advice, and just really try to impact people in a positive way. And so we did, while we have a lot of fun with our marketing, we probably
Take our business very
we
seriously.
take it very
Sure.
seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the things we realized, like any business, every agent is running a business. And what Hans and I did, I think we did it very well, and of course we made a lot of mistakes along the way, is we tried to deconstruct the business of helping someone buy a house and deconstruct the business of helping someone sell the house. And then, what most agents do is they sit across the table from a client and they say, you should hire me because I'm the best. Well, the truth of the matter is, no one person or even a small team excels at all the different things that you need to do to sell a house or buy a house, help someone buy a house properly. And Hans and I have always been about let's hire, train, use systems, technology, and people to fill the gaps where our skill sets are lacking. And so that's always been our approach, and we found that through scale that we've been able to do that very, very well. And then with our merger with Compass last year, it's taken it to a whole new level.
Got it. Before we talk about Compass, let's start from the beginning. You guys had already been, your background, both of your backgrounds are very unique when it comes to people in our field. Real estate in general does have a very low barrier of entry. You just have to have a license. But
That's how Steven got his.
given you guys backgrounds and having worked at the Washington Post and AOL respectively for many years before jumping into our field, did you see that as an advantage when you first started? Did you already have, let's just say, clients that you wanted to work with, were willing to work with you from your previous industries?
Yeah, so
right off the bat.
So interesting. I actually got, when I decided, that I wanted to go into real estate, I originally thought I was going to be a developer, and I had
as a web developer or as a
real estate developer. Buy properties, add value, and build up a portfolio.
Sure.
And I started talking to every real estate agent I could talk to and try to learn as much as I can and try to find suitable properties. And I always say, if I talk to 20 agents, I was young and looking at just basically residential homes I wanted to renovate and fix up. 18 of those agents were lovely people and were very capable of selling someone a home, but they had no business experience. And so the kinds of questions that I was asking, they just didn't even know what I was asking about. Just like basic metrics of commercial real estate, but I don't have a commercial real estate background, so it's very basic. But they couldn't answer them. Two of the agents I spoke to were excellent, and ended up buying a building, a row home from one of them. But it was sort of that experience when I just said, you know what? I think realizing what I like to do, I love people. I love the energy, and our mom is in sales as well, and so we were always around it. And I thought it was a much better fit for me than being a full-time developer. And so that was the transition, and it was a big transition for me to get through that, just as on a thinking process. And then once I decided to do it, it was the best thing ever. It's a very constant. unlike, I had some sales and business development roles earlier in my career, and you're selling some other product. Like I was selling a software package, and if the software developers couldn't write good code, it made my job really hard. In real estate, you're selling a service, and you're in full control of the experience that you're delivering. And our approach has always been, it's just natural to be consultative and try to help people and help them avoid making mistakes and finding the right spot. So it worked out great.
Okay. For you, Steve, same thing.
So similar. So
Did it help?
I came in being as a transactional lawyer.
Yeah.
I could do deals backwards and forwards. I was in very complicated and complex transactions where I was the lead attorney for many years when I was in-house counsel at AOL. So I think what for most agents when they come into the business is the most intimidating part, which is dealing with the contracts and dealing with the negotiations. That was
second nature for you.
It was a huge competitive advantage for me. And it still is to this day. Now,
Can I tell you you're the best? My brother had the best line I've ever heard.
Good.
So his first transaction was a really large transaction for a friend that had done well in locally, and his friend was also very good friend said, "So Steve, is this the biggest deal you've ever done?" And Steve just came out of corporate America, and he said, "No, actually, it's the smallest deal I've ever done."
it's true. Yeah.
So I thought that was great.
I like the way you look at things,
Yeah.
right?
This is the smallest.
All right, so both of you guys, it sounds like you had no trouble getting into the business, getting jump-started in the business, getting clients from the business in the beginning.
So I'll tell you one story about
Okay.
that. So one of the things I was most shocked about, and again, Hans and I use this as competitive advantage, but when you go through the licensing class to learn how to be, to get your license as realtor, but obviously that doesn't teach you the business of being a real estate agent. And then we went through a series of classes of like the business of being a real estate agent, and it's really interesting. Hans and I sort of figured out in that process, you learn sort of the legalities of being an agent, and you learn sort of the business of being an agent, which is like how to get clients. But very little training was about, okay, once you have a client, how do you provide them best-in-class service? What's the best way to do a CMA? What's the best way to negotiate? What's the best way to write an offer? And that's where Hans and I felt like we could really excel, because the substance of being an agent, like that's what Hans and I were all about. It's like, how do you do things the best? Like, how do you convey information in a digestible way for your client that they can actually utilize it and make a much more informed decision? So again, I think that still exists to this day, and that's a real opportunity for forward-thinking brokerages like Compass to really make a difference.
Sure. Yeah.
Well said.
Did you guys have?
Did you say Hans just said well said?
He said well said.
He never says that one.
Wow.
No, it's actually it's Christmas time, Steve. So I just wanted to
You got to be giving.
make you feel good. Yes, it's
Yeah.
time of giving.
You got to be nice to each other at this time of the year. When you guys had your own brokerage team, and you guys were obviously leaders in the field in terms of being a broker and selling homes, but when you guys had your brokerage and you had all these agents working under you, for some of our younger listeners of real estate or people who are starting out in their business,
We always said, by the way, alongside of us. Like we really
okay,
if it was
alongside, not
team
for,
effort,
not working for,
yeah.
but alongside. What was some of the struggles of building a team, maintaining a team, and growing them as professionals from a business and a personal standpoint?
The challenge in this business is always scale. I shouldn't say always. There's a gating. Once you have to get to a certain level where you know you can sell a house, and once you know you have the ability to generate business, the question is scaling the business at every step, and it's hard. It's really hard. We went from when we were a big team at our former brokerage, we had 30 folks with us, and then we grew that. We left 4.5 years ago, started our own brokerage, and grew that to 70 people. We had over $400 million in production, and it was we were growing quickly, but it was constantly trying to figure out the right people, how to recruit great people, how to engage them and help them grow their businesses, and I think where we were very, very good at is, and why it's been such a seamless and a good combination with Compass, is we approach the business the same way. We really wanted to take as much off an agent's plate at the brokerage level to let them do what help them shine, which is to service their clients.
What did you take
their
off his
business.
plate, for example?
Well, as much of the administrative and back office work that
The arts and crafts.
the arts and
Yeah.
crafts of it, and when everyone starts, you're a sole practitioner, and they're doing everything, and most folks don't have, most agents still to this day don't have the scale to compartmentalize. So if you're doing, pick a number, $10 million, $20 million in production, and you want to hire a full-time person, that is a huge risk.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
very, very hard what that role is. And what most people do is they hire a mini me.
Yeah.
It's like, I want someone to just do everything that I can do.
Yeah.
Well, if someone's, first of all, if they're that good, they're not going to
They're
stay in
not
that
gonna
role.
stay, yeah.
And what you really need is you need to break it down. So you need a marketing group, an operations group, a contract processing group, a listing coordination group. And at a brokerage scale, you have the scale to do that. We had 3 or 4 listing coordinators. We had
Did you have to hire them yourselves? Or
so the brokerage. So when we were on
the brokerage helped you do that.
So no, well, we were the brokers, right?
Well, yeah.
So at our old brokerage, when we had a big team, we had all that infrastructure at the team level, and so for us, it was very easy to go from a big team to an independent brokerage because we already had that philosophy.
Yeah, our epiphany was why there are it's like 30,000 agents in the greater DC area. There's 2 million agents in the country. Why is it that the model that exists today is why are the brokerages letting the agents build out all this infrastructure? That's not necessarily their core skill set.
We're required to do so, though.
What's that?
In order to survive,
So
we have to
do it.
And,
And some agents build out their systems well. There's probably as many different team structures as there are teams. And so what our epiphany was, 4 years ago when we started our brokerage is let's take what we built at the team level and provide those services and that support at the brokerage level. And I think that's, it's really funny. We were doing that with very limited resources, but incredible inside knowledge of what it takes to sell a home. It just coincidentally at the same time, Compass was coming along and trying to do the same thing with the opposite. They had tremendous resources, but their leadership weren't necessarily from the real estate background.
it's not the same old recycled thinking.
And it was just, we had long conversations with them, and it really was a perfect merger of our two companies.
I would say we've been totally blessed. We had some people in our salaried support roles are phenomenal. In fact, we just had a meeting with a regional head here in Washington this week, and she was so complimentary. She said, "Your former employees are now embedded in Compass and are the sort of the gold standard of what we're looking for." And that felt great because we're so grateful to these guys, and we still work with them. They're still supporting our day-to-day business and all of our colleagues. So it's been great.
And what's so great about Compass is that it's just a genuine willingness to learn and get better. And not that we were perfect by any stretch, and not. But we did some things a little bit differently than Compass did, and what we're doing in this process is we're learning from them and they're learning from us. We're trying to
Make it better.
Make it better. Yeah.
Do you want to give us the quick story of how they approached you? Did you know about us beforehand? How did you get approached? Did it take a long time for you to decide, okay, we're finally going to join?
So we had ongoing conversations with Robert when he first opened the DC market.
Did he call you first? He called.
So I met Robert. I think he called me first, actually, 5 years ago, and they were just thinking about coming to DC, and they talked to us seriously about being their first group here in the Washington DMV, and we said no.
Did you take a meeting, or was it just a phone call?
So we had a meeting here, and then they invited me to New York, and I remember going down, coming back.
Andy Bernard? Was it not Andy Bernard? Was it Leslie Bernard? There was a Bernard. Andrea. Her name was Andrea.
It's Robert and a lady. I can't remember the lady's
The blonde lady.
Yes.
Andrea.
Yes.
You can't help meet Robert and not be incredibly impressed with his brain. He's just like a really genuine, passionate person. Hans and I I think we sort of needed to walk that path alone. And to Robert's credit, we both kept the doors open, and we would we would just have nice conversations.
What made you say no at the beginning?
So honestly, they were all over the place. They basically had a rental app in
New
York that was very and they were pivoting into residential
It wouldn't have
brokerage.
done anything here.
And and so we were at a table like this, and they brought in like 4 or 5 of their senior leadership team, and they were like ex Goldman Sachs, Bain, McKinsey, all these really smart guys, and like we live in the brokerage business, and we've been doing it for a long time, and it's a hard business, and the margins are tight, and it's an operational thing, and so it was like. And they didn't really have a clear path or vision of what they wanted to do, but we watched them over year after year, and we met them a year before we caught up with Rob a year before we actually joined, and they had just come back and raised a bunch of money from SoftBank.
Yeah.
And it was a fascinating conversation. I remember very vividly, and we were in Compass's New York office, and Robert started explaining the experience of talking to the SoftBank guys, and I think actually sort of started to crystallize a path and a vision of what they wanted to do, and they were building the resources to do what they wanted to do, because what they wanted to do is really bold, like really, really bold, and you can't do it. You need overwhelming resources to do it, but if you get there, the payoff is tremendous, and so we heard that, and when we started our conversations, all right, we're excited, let's do this together and crush it.
So that was the first round after SoftBank came in. That was when you guys really
started thinking about it seriously, and then we've had another conversation. I guess
when you guys first met, I was here too. We had some tools, but it wasn't a lot,
right?
And it wasn't scalable to DC, Maryland, Virginia.
Right.
It was scalable to New York City.
Right.
Our MLS data wasn't there yet. There's no the valuation tool would have been nothing here, because you can't really use the valuation tool in a single family home.
Right.
Unlike New York City. So I think the timing for you guys that was probably a good timing for you guys.
Yeah, I mean we're thrilled. We're over a year in, and it's been a great partnership.
I want to switch gears now that we talked enough about Compass. You guys have a market that it's humongous. I mean, DC, Maryland, Virginia. I think Fairfax County, the population itself surpassed 1 million. So there is a lot of homes that inherently will get traded every year, more than New York City, in this market. What are some of the misconceptions that real estate brokers looking from outside have about this market? Or do you have any? Have you met brokers from, let's just say, Compass, Texas, or Compass, California, or New York, and they probably don't know much about this area? What do you think are some of the unique characteristics of the DMV area that people outside of us do not know?
So I would say a couple things. One is DC is fortunate to have an extra leg to our economics school here, which is the government.
Yeah.
I heard an economist, he articulated it very well. He said, when California is doing bad economically, it's actually good for DC. And his reasoning was the government uses California as sort of a barometer for the health of the United States economy. And when California starts doing poorly, the government tends to spend more money, and a disproportionate percentage of every dollar spent stays local.
Yeah.
And so we actually have this
Counter-cyclical.
this counterbalance to our economy.
I heard there's no such thing as a recession in DC because
That's not quite true.
we aren't guaranteed from the ups and downs, but we do have a little bit of an insulation factor that's the rest of the national market doesn't have.
And is that including Maryland and Northern
The whole
Virginia?
area. Oh yeah.
And the whole
there's
area.
Contractors, the whole government contracting network, is all through our region. And that being said, the other thing we like about being here is, our clientele tends to be sort of, professionals, and even like the high net worth individuals they're the working affluent. They value sort of practical advice.
Give us an example in the DMV. We have Wall Street clients, right? Well, what do you guys have? What?
It's interesting.
U.S. Capital. politicians, you have government contractors. Who do you have?
So to see that to add on to Steve's comment, we have the government here, but I've been here. Like I grew up, we grew up in New York City, and I chose Washington. Like I love Washington, and the city's just gotten better and better and better over the 30 years I've been here, and it's much more diverse economically than it ever was. There's so much entrepreneurship and energy going in all sorts of things, from biotech to defense to telecom to tech startups, and so 30 years ago, it felt much more like a government town.
Yeah.
I remember Jenny and my wife and I were dating, and she came down on a Sunday night for an event, and it was like 8 o'clock at night, and the only place we could find open for food was like a local deli that is not great. I love it, but she's like, I don't know if I can move to Washington from New York. And now, you discover the most vibrant food scenes, and if you've been, as a local, seen what's going on around the town, it's just booming, absolutely booming with
every neighborhood,
young professionals, and kind of like what's happening to New York. Areas when we grew up in New York that were
you can go to Williamsburg.
And the parts of the city that were really down and out.
Tompkins Square Park was a
and now they're just thriving. And same effect is happening here in Washington.
The market's always changing. Let's talk about.
But I was going to say that what's different about DC economically is at the high end, there's a lot of wealth in DC, but we have very, very few homes that trade in north of $5 million.
Sure.
And compared to New York and LA, Miami,
San Francisco.
San Francisco, and it's really interesting that people tend to be much more modest here in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of there's a very broad set of homes that for most of the country are very expensive, but compared to those other major metros, and also internationally, London or Paris or Tokyo or Singapore, we're the best best bargains for the first tier cities in globally.
And just because these $2, $3, $4 million homes in the DMV area are just as great, if not better, in terms of quality than some of the homes you'll find in New York City.
We love it when our buyers come from New York, California, or London.
That's the best.
They're great. They think things are cheap here.
It's really interesting. We would lose. We lose a lot of our folks to the West Coast, for example. They go to San Francisco, and for the first time, we're starting to get clients that are making quality of life decisions to leave the West Coast. It's like prices are outrageous. I'm paying crazy amount of money for very, very modest homes. There's crime. There's all sorts of infrastructure challenges going on in places like San Francisco and high taxes, and they're coming this way, which is really interesting.
What can you get for $1 million right now in DC? Let's just say a nicer part of DC. Let's just say at Capitol Hill versus like $1 million in Capitol Hill versus $1 million in let's just say McLean or Langley area, or $1 million versus in like Chevy Chase area. Like what's the difference?
Capitol Hill, we sold a 2-bedroom row home for in the high 8s.
Okay.
3-bedroom.
Is that how many floors is that? In one of those 3-story homes in Capitol Hill?
That's a 2-story.
It's walking distance to National Park.
Not really, but on the hill, right? And walking distance to the Capitol.
Sure.
And in Northwest, $1 million gets you a modest home that's like 3-bedroom, 1-bath up.
When you say modest home, they're single family.
Single family homes. Yeah, or a row home. It could be a row home. And then the condos are. Luxury is $1,000, like at the Ritz, it would be $1,000.
$1,000 a foot.
$1,000 a foot.
So 1,000 square foot, 1 bedroom is $1 million.
Right, and the super high end, the fanciest, newest stuff, maybe $1,300, $1,400 a foot. But I hear like 5,000-10,000 square feet from our colleagues in New York and San Francisco. We have nothing like that.
Oh, I see.
Right, and Virginia the same.
Yeah, McLean, or the entry level detached home in McLean is probably in the 700s. So for $1 million, you're getting sort of a little either a bigger home, or you're getting one of those smaller homes that have been totally remodeled. That is sort of that sub-$1 million market in McLean.
What's the price per square foot for a home like that?
Oh, that'll be probably in the 400 or so range.
Wow.
Yeah, it's lower.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's very good.
What we are seeing shifting is buyer. It's kind of like the Connecticut, New York, like those big estates.
Is it a buyer's market right now here?
Well, it depends where. I mean, it depends what submarket it is. But what I started to say is 20 years ago, if you wanted, had resources and you wanted a big, beautiful home, you'd be in the outer suburbs. You'd be in Great Falls. You'd be in Potomac,
outside the Beltway.
outside the Beltway. And that market suffered terribly because the young families that have resources don't want to be in a big, isolated plot. They want to be walkable
Closer.
in the city, so they're buying less square footage in more dense regions. So it's kind of like New York, like where the Upper East Side or those big estates in Connecticut have not appreciated anywhere near the rate of like Chelsea or Soho or Brooklyn.
Sure.
And same here, like Capitol Hill. Like those things have doubled in a matter of.
So the young professionals are buying these nicer homes. They're trying to stay closer in, and then the empty nesters who want to stay local, they want to get rid of their big,
mansion outside,
mansion out in the outside the Beltway, and they're all trying to buy the same inventory. So we sort of have this sort of
So the population, you think in general is migrating towards core markets.
Yes.
Absolutely.
If you two had the option to just sell for the rest of your life, 1 or 2 neighborhoods, any neighborhood, where you guys work, where would it be and why?
That's an interesting question.
Neighborhood.
Micro markets, right? Like for us, it's the West Village, True West Village, west of 7th, south of 14th, or Downing.
Right.
What micro market neighborhoods?
I would say sort of. Either inside the Beltway, McLean, or close in Arlington.
Okay, why is that?
Just because it's
where you live.
It's where it's both where I live,
You
but our joke is we're 20 minutes from everywhere. Like you really can get to a lot of different places, and if you think about real estate, the fuel for the real estate market is jobs.
Yeah.
And so just being inside the Beltway, being 20 minutes from everywhere, people are working in DC, people are working in Tyson's Corner, people working out the Dulles corridor or the 270 corridor. You can get to all those places.
Everywhere.
And it's just, frankly, we have a really nice, diverse population here, and it's just a really interesting market.
What about you, Hans?
It's funny. As I've gotten older, the nicest part of the job, one of the nicest part of the job, is that we are in our community, and we're enthusiastic about our communities, and that's really rewarding. So
for you,
just keep doing what I'm doing. Like I love like Steven loves this side of the river. I love where I live, and I'm sort of passionate about it. Yeah, and I'm right on the border. So I do Northwest. No, I'm right on the border. So I do a ton of work in Northwest DC, and more on the Hill because that's where our folks are going. But I just like being in the community, and it's a really rewarding part of our job.
Switching gears, I was at a real estate conference in August, and the conference consisted of, it was Tom Ferry. It was brokers from Arkansas to Newport Beach to Florida. It's just everywhere. There was barely any Compass brokers there, by the way, surprising. The mood to me was quite somber. It wasn't, we're very optimistic about the market. We're very optimistic about our business, growing it next year. We're very happy. A lot of it, that was what I expected. What actually was very, I don't know, like our business is getting pushed, our margins are thinning, we're not sure how the health of the market will affect our business next year. And Tom Ferry just, his beginning speech was, let's talk about how we should be saving cash. So that was the tone of the entire conference, which I thought was really weird. Everybody sees it a little differently. You guys probably see it differently as well. That said, the margins, there's competition. How are you guys being competitive amongst some of the other brokerages that are in your market, whether it's discount brokerage, if you're pitching a seller, the 1 to 2% commission model versus the 5 to 6% commission model. Also on the buy side, how are you being competitive against some of the buy side agents that will give rebates and things of that nature versus you guys? So how do you position yourself amongst the competition? What makes you guys stand above that?
So it's really interesting. If you think about the real estate agent's business is, it's transacting, helping people buy and sell homes.
Yeah.
And the number of homes that sell in the United States every year is pretty consistently between 5 and 6 million. So the number of transactions is pretty static. And all these agents are chasing that same number of homes, and my joke is 50% of the agents claim to be in the top 1%, in the country, and The reality is that, yes, not only are agents competing with each other, agents are competing with technology. And in the last 5 years, more money has gone into real estate tech than if, all previous years combined. And most of that technology investment is going at trying to either disintermediate the agent or try to scrape some of that agent commission and put it in the company's pocket. What Hans and I are seeing is that we still, and from a very biased perspective, but we still believe that if you are an awesome agent, you're more than worth your commission, because a true agent can really, on the buy side, identify opportunities that other agents don't know about or don't have access to, and then on the sell side, sort of really putting together a thoughtful strategy that's going to position your home and maximize the chances of getting the best outcome. So what's happening now, and I think what Tom Ferry was alluding to, is there's a flight to the elite. More homes are being sold by fewer teams in the country, and the teams like ours that really sort of thought through and have the resources to ferret out these opportunities for buyers and to put together a really compelling strategy and manage most, if not all, of the process for the seller. Those teams are doing better and better, and that's why Hans and I are really excited about our future, because we are both with our own history, but now with the Compass merger, we just have these incredible resources that we never had before.
Do you have anything to add to that?
So our breakout year was really 2008 and 2009, and that was when the crash, the most recent real estate crash happened, and it was a real shakeout. It was a material impact on the marketplace, and so many folks get into real estate when times are booming because they think it's an easy business. And what happens, and especially in those crisis moments, is that people want to have a trusted advisor with them, and that's when we thrive. And we always joke, like Steven says, we were trying to be the best of class, deconstruct what it is to be a great real estate agent, and all those things. Those things are so critical. But what's so frustrating in a booming market is you are the best, but the people go with the people they like, or they have the
People work with the people they like.
They work with people they like, and a lot of times it's Uncle Bob or Aunt Petunia.
Yeah,
they sold 2 homes a year and don't know what they're doing,
Everybody
but
has a
they're really
license.
nice. Yeah, and so all that stuff gets washed away. It's all of a sudden you got to be different, you got to be better, and you got to be smart about it. And so I do think it's you should always be saving your gathering your nuts in these times that have been strong. And I actually think going into early 2020 we think it's going to be a very robust period, but going into the elections and beyond, who knows? And so when those things happen, I think we'll be very well positioned. But I think for a lot of people, it's going to be a reckoning.
When you go to a pitch, and I'm just a question to both of you guys. We're going to wrap up here, but when you go to a pitch, I'm the seller. I have company A charging me 1% or 2%, 3%, whatever it is, very discounted, and then you guys come in as part of the mix of other 4 or 5 other people that we're interviewing. What is your proposition to me in 20 seconds or a minute or less versus the 1 to 2%ers?
I heard a great analogy, and I don't know if this is true, but I heard it on a podcast, so it must be true, about George Clooney when he was early in his career trying to get his first role, and he was going on all these auditions and not getting it, and then one day he had this epiphany where he realized that as nervous as he was, that he was not going to get the role, he realized that the person who was interviewing him or auditioning him was equally nervous about picking the wrong actor. And once he figured that out, he changed his mindset, and he goes into interview with the mindset that I'm your answer. I'm going to solve your problem. I'm the no-brainer choice. And so, I think Hans and I have done that intuitively. I think we're more conscious about it now, but we know the value we can bring, and we know that our clients are better off using us than using our competition. And so we really, confidently, and I like to say confidence without arrogance, explain to them what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. And we come from this. I said earlier, this is a very professional-minded market, and they don't go for the ego strokes. They go for, like, if you really present a sound strategy to sell a home.
Who's adding the real value?
We win our listing appointments.
Good, great. Do you have anything to add to that regarding listing appointments?
You said it perfectly.
And even for buyers, just to wrap up here, if there's a company that offers a rebate on the commission and to the buyers, is it the same thing? I mean, how do you explain to these buyers? They say, hey, listen, I have another friend that is telling me that there's a rebate, I get some money back. What's your response to that?
I mean, it's basically what Steven said on the buy side.
Same thing.
So one of the things we've been doing this for a long time. We have a very, very good reputation in our local market because we've been treating people honestly and fairly and intelligently for 20 years. By the way, not just our clients, but our peers in this business, or colleagues from other brokerages. And having that track record at this stage in our career is there's things that we can do that no one can do. It's because we have relationships. We know if someone's looking in a particular neighborhood, I know, and on my speed dial, I know who to call.
Experience can't be taught.
To get that, to find out what's coming on that may not be available. There's just no way someone on a salaried role new to an area is offering rebates has any close to those relationships to understand where those potential opportunities are for those buyers.
Right. So a big part of what we do on the buy side is, we want our clients to be educated to a point that when the right opportunity comes in front of them, that they are able to appreciate that's a good opportunity, and and then we will give our opinion, like, this is like a really good one for you.
Versus this is not. Don't.
Right.
I mean, I can tell you horror story after horror story. I had a client that bought a condo.
Not for his clients.
No, a condo. No, it was my son.
horror story.
No, he bought a condo from a developer with a buyer's agent, right? And I don't know if they had a rebate or what was going on, but they bought this condo and they never had the final certificate of occupancy. They never had the tax ID number. He bought all of it before that was done properly.
How did you do it? Was it cash? Was it a cash deal?
I mean, it was just schlocky the whole way through the process, and he ended up buying this thing. It never passed final inspections and all this stuff. And then when he started digging into it, he was like, "Oh my God, I'm in over my head." It turned into a giant multi-year lawsuit, and then he called me to sell the thing. And if he had used us on the buy side, it never would have happened. It just, like, all that headache and all that stress would absolutely have never happened. And it's just horror story after horror story like that. So
the challenge of this business is also the opportunity, which is, to the consumer, it's not rocket science, and everyone thinks you can do it. You think you can sort of work your way through it, and there's a lot of DIY people thinks they can do it. And the challenge is it's you probably get through it, but you don't know where the landmines are. And so, what Hans and I and our team is all about is sort of, telling you what's around the corner and making sure that you don't make a choice or a negotiation, or just you chase a commission rebate, and you might save 1%, but you're actually gonna you're paying 5% over market.
I mean, I use the doctor analogy.
Proctologist.
No, not that one. It's a different situation. A bad doctor is fine if you're healthy, right? And you probably 75% of the transactions run smoothly and all that. But when you're really, really sick and you need the best, you need to have the best doctor at your side. And in real estate, you have to choose your doctor up front, and you don't know whether you're going to run into a curveball down the road. And you want that advisor with you through this entire process.
That's great. I love that one. I thought you were going to go the WebMD route where everybody uses, but that one's good. Yeah. I like that.
Trademark.
One of my favorite things that Refkin said was that discounts can be expensive, and both of your stories are exactly that.
Yeah.
Is that at the end of the day, if you go the discount route, it could cost you more in the long run. Do you still practice law? Do you jump into? You talked about litigation, but do you jump into that type of practice?
My joke is I practice law every day. I'm just not allowed to admit it. But no, I mean I'm sort of, I guess, the de facto general counsel for our company. I'm on the Northern Virginia Association of Realtors Forms Committee, so
Sure,
I'm
I saw
involved
that.
in drafting contract or
Contracts.
helping our.
So you still practice law to a degree.
Yeah,
But
and I
you
love
don't-
it. I do.
But you don't go into litigation if there's something.
Oh, no,
there.
no,
You don't want to do that.
we-
You want to practice on your core business.
That's right.
Right, okay. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for your time. We went a little over. We appreciate it. If you guys are listening and you have interest in buying in the DMV area, please reach out to Steve and Hans. We're honored to have them on the show today, and their experiences and their stories are quite remarkable. So, once again, thank you for joining.
Thank you,
and,
Tom.
Yep, and thank you
very much.
Yep, thank you for listening to Real Talk.